Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the Soul View. I'm Cindy Kabika, and my co-hosts, of course, are Lorelei Robbins and Shivani Ganel, and we look at what's in the news from a soul view. And I'm so excited that you're here today because, we're going to be talking about Mother's Day, and that is what's in the news. It's on Sunday, and you might be thinking, but I didn't have a good relationship with my mother. There's still a soul contract there, regardless of who your mom was. If you don't have children, that's okay. You can celebrate it anyway, because if you've nurtured a plant, an animal, a garden, then you are a mom. So welcome to the hood, the motherhood. And I want to say, before we get started here, I just want to say, happy birthday to my grandson. He is 18 today.
Oh,
and I'm so excited. We're going to dinner after the show tonight, and I get to meet his girl that's a friend. She's not a girlfriend yet, but she's a girl that's a friend. That's how he says it. So, so it's a special time. Today on the show, as I said, we are going to be talking about Mother's Day, and we're going to also be looking at, bless you. We're going to be looking at the astrological sign of your relationship with your mother. And I think that that's really a cool thing because, you have your astrological sign, you have the astrological sign of your mother, and then together there is a sign between the two of you. So I think that's really cool. And Lorelei will be talking about that a little later. But right now we are going to go to Lorelei, and we're going to be talking about the astrological weather. So Lorelei?
So again, right now and until next week, we're in the time of release, letting go, what I'd love to say, plowing under the crops. We're in the last quarter moon, which is the time to release what no longer serves you, whether that's stuff, literal physical stuff that you go, God, my drawers are, or it's emotional patterns, behaviors. I think this is a lunar phase, the last quarter moon, that a lot of folks can have a challenge with. If you're a go, do, productive, got to make it happen person, you may feel challenged because this is a time, not that the moon's going to do anything to you, but where you might feel not as much energy. And if you try to push through, that's when we either then get sick or extremely tired. So I would just really encourage everyone for the next week until the 15th, which is the new moon in Taurus, to at least allow some, what I call, again, plow under the crops, letting go of what no longer works so that you create the space for what's new. And we'll talk about what I'm going to say next week as well. But we have a major planetary shift on the day of the Taurus new moon on May 15th. And that is the planet of innovation and ingenuity and authenticity. The great awakener, Uranus, is going to leave for a bit, Aries, where it's been for the last 7 years, and move into Taurus. What does all that mean? Well, what that means is there's a shift in the zeitgeist, if you will, because this is an 84-year cycle. And unless we're 84 years of age, none of us have seen this before. The last time this occurred, and you'll probably get into this, Cindy, in terms of the political place where we are and our leaders, et cetera, 1934 to 1941. Was the last time. And so again, this will be an ongoing conversation, Uranus and Taurus, but let me just say this. Those of you that have Taurus energy, that are early Taurian, the early signs, this is for all of us, but this is an opportunity really for major changes to take place, to break through perhaps patterns that have gotten stagnant. This is for everyone, because Taurus is like an immovable force. It's the most resistant to change sign in the zodiac. So here's the planet of ingenuity and innovation and rebellion moving into this hold on, don't change. So banking, finances, our core values. I mean, again, like everything else, this can be tremendously exciting, and it is definitely a shift, I think, that a lot of folks are starting to feel within themselves. Because again, as within, so without. and as without, so within. So that's how we understand that relationship. As you would say, when there's disorder on earth, there's order in heaven. Well, our intention is to bring order to the disorder.
Absolutely. And, you know, I want to say that right now I'm feeling this incredible shift going on in the energy that, well, you've helped me understand it a little bit more of what's going on right now, because it's kind of a strange feeling.
Because you always tap in. I mean, you always tap in with your Pisces energy. So what have you been getting? What have you been feeling?
I have been feeling that there is a real change that is about to happen. It's actually already happening. And I feel this change, you know, kind of brewing underneath of everything that's going on right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see what manifests itself within the next couple of weeks. And it feels very strong. It feels there's a strong undercurrent.
Yes.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, and one thing that's kind of interesting, it'll be interesting, Queen Elizabeth, she just had a birthday, well, April 20th. She's the first day of Taurus. And so this planet that's shifting into Taurus, you know, that's a big deal for her. So whether she reinvents herself or she goes to the other side, or, I mean, again, it'll be just very interesting to see, not because this planet's doing anything to her, but because in the organism itself is this need for change, because so it's like everyone would be feeling this. And the interesting thing is, once Taurus makes changes, once the energy of Taurus, then they really last. So like everything else, you know, we're all sort of feeling into this because nobody can say for sure what's going to happen. We're all at creation, and we're all at choice. But it's exciting, you know, it's exciting to think about that we're all here at the change of a guard, so to speak, you know, a change in the underlying dynamics of an 84-year cycle.
Well, I feel it. Do you feel it, Shivani?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I feel exactly the same as you do. It's this, I'm waiting, you know, like I feel the energy's in, but something big will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a good way. You know, like I'm not experiencing, I don't feel anything bad, but change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the change, and it does not feel negative.
Yes.
It doesn't feel negative to me either. So
yeah.
Well, and actually, you know, that expression that we've all heard, be the change you want to see, that's actually a great line. That's a great affirmation mantra for now, for this cycle. Be the change you want to see, you know, and because Uranus is about change. So change, we know, happens, right? And so we can be open and be flexible and, you know, be, as what Deepak says, you know, be a reed in the wind, just bending with the wind, as opposed to being broken, you know, by something that might seem to happen out of the blue.
And as they say, the only constant thing in life is change, right?
That is very true.
Totally.
But rest assured, everyone, the change that is about to happen is good for us. It may be bumpy or uncomfortable as we're going through it, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So just if you're feeling it too, I want you to, if there's a like button there, go ahead and hit thumbs up. And I would love to know those of you who are feeling it too. And also leave us a comment in the comment box. If you're on Facebook, just go ahead and put it in the comments below. Or if you're right here on Zoom with us, go ahead and put it in the chat. If you are listening later on YouTube, go ahead and put your comments in as well. And also, I want to say, you know, subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you follow us. And we do this every Wednesday, and we have different topics, whatever is in the news. So please join us. If you like what we're talking about today, give us a thumbs up. So today, you know, the next segment, we usually do Q&Q, the questions and quotes, but today we're going to be doing a special prayer for mothers, for Mother's Day. So we are going to forego that, and a little bit later we're going to be doing that. I'm also going to give you an idea. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that real quick, for a Mother's Day present. If your mother is still here, or if she's not, then this is something special that I actually learned from one of my favorite authors. And I love this. You know, all of us are in a time right now where we're downsizing. We don't want all this stuff around anymore. We don't want more stuff from other people. So if you're a mom, you can even encourage your children to do this for you. Go and look for something that you either gave your mom or that you got from your children. And, you know, and or that you gave your mom, that you gave your mom for Mother's Day at one time. Give it to her again, because that's a gift that never stops giving. And write something about what you felt back then when you made it. Could be a little funny looking ashtray. You know how we get those from all of our kids that they make, ceramics. It could be something like that. It could be a drawing or something. And then how do you feel about it today? What is different about that child in you from that time to today? And write out something and give that gift. That is a gift from the heart. That is a gift from the younger you and the now more seasoned you. And for me, I think that is one of the most beautiful gifts to ever get. I don't need more stuff. I'm downsizing. I don't want more stuff. But something like that for my granddaughter, that's what I asked her for. Mm-hmm. And I know that it would be so meaningful to your mom as well. Any thoughts on that, ladies?
I think that's beautiful. I think that, you know, and actually, even if a mother is no longer on the planet, one could actually do a ritual, because that's how the universe really responds to us, is through ritual. With that, you know, I'm thinking of my own mother who's not alive anymore. And actually I could see, you know, in sort of a meditative or just even in a quiet state, even having that conversation, you know, in other words, because, and I think, and it's interesting because, again, this time that we're in right now of a last quarter moon is always an opportunity to let go of what no longer serves its purpose, but did at another time. So that could be people's thoughts about their relationship with their mother. You know, I mean, again, for many, I think it's probably a mixed bag, but again, whether it was challenging and contentious or whether it was beautiful and loving and supportive, we all know it's all been, I mean, it was agreed to before anyone ever, you know, set foot on the planet. And
that's right. That's a soul contract that we came in with. And you're right, to have whatever that is. And my mom is no longer here either, but she kept all these years, she kept this picture. I wished I knew where it was. I'd bring it out, but it's a picture of a horse, and the horse is about dog size. And there's a big fence and a huge barn and then a dog-sized horse. And I used cotton balls on it and everything. And she kept that for years. Wow. And then another one that was huge because I did all the artwork for the school. And she kept all this artwork too for many years. And so going back and looking at that, especially the one with the horse, because it was just kind of a strange looking picture, but she honored that and she kept it for all those years. So, you know, I want to look for that, and that's how I'll celebrate Mother's Day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I want to talk now about, you know, let's just talk for a moment about each of our moms. And Lorelei, I know that you looked up our moms, and you already know our signs, and then we'll talk about that relationship. But first, let's just talk a little bit about our relationship with our mothers. Shivani?
Yeah, sure. God, it's probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to integrate and move through. So my mom, she's still alive. She's 91 and a half in a nursing home in Germany. And it took, well, how old am I now? So it took probably 56 years to come to a real loving and accepting place. And it's literally, we couldn't see eye to eye. I literally felt, and she probably too, that we come from two different planets and we just couldn't connect. Mm-hmm. And it's been amazing. Like I did a lot of work around my mom, and each time I would come back to Germany, I thought, okay, now we see a shift, and we didn't, or very slow shift. And literally, when I let go that I needed to, in some ways, be loved or be, what's the word, made okay, like I didn't need her anymore to affirm me. When I actually let that one go, that's when it shifted, which was really. And now, good thing is we're really loving. I'm really grateful. I understand why she's my mom, and yeah, and I'm very curious, Lorelei, what you see as a soul contract, because it's been the hardest relationship I got to push through.
Yeah. Do you want me to speak to that now, Cindy?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? I think that's a better way to do that. So
So, of course, your mother's a Capricorn too, right?
Yeah. And my granny was a Capricorn. It
interesting.
Was fun.
Well, when we share any same signature with anybody, whether it's the same sun sign, but we're talking about the sun right now, we tend to see, again, things in the person that we like and don't like in ourselves. So certainly what's interesting about your relationship with your mother, yes, it's Capricorn. The moon of the relationship, which is the feeling planet, is Aquarius. So, and your mother was born, even though she's Capricorn, she was born with a lot of Aquarius energy, as was your Cindy. Your mothers are only like a year or two apart, your mother, your two mothers. And so, to be born in the 30s, in the mid to late 30s, with a lot of energy that is about challenging things, or that is about, being outside the box, needing to be an individual, where does that energy go, right? Where does that energy of, gee, I want to do my own thing. How come I'm locked into having to be whatever, a responsible mother? So when I looked at that with you and your mom, Shivani, I was thinking, what a fascinating combination of obey the rules, break the rules. I mean, in other words, of like honoring, and certainly you could easily project onto your mother the Capricorn energy. Capricorn's not a warm sign. It's, it's all business. It's, it's like, come on, get, as you know. So certainly there, you could have experienced certainly a certain amount of coldness, or just, stern and stoic, which is very Capricorn. But what's interesting is the moon's in Aquarius. So it's like somehow your mother could, how do I want to say? It's like could appreciate some of the crazy, weird, outside the box things that you do.
Now she can.
Now she can. Yeah. Well, now she can because you can. Because you can, really. And one other thing I want to say about your mom, which is really interesting. While her moon is Aquarius, no matter what time she's born, right now, every 2.5 years, we each go on a different emotional journey. It's like an emotional reorientation. Well, your mother's emotional orientation now is Leo. So I think you could appeal, in your relationship with her, to a childlike, playful kind of energy, that you certainly wouldn't have experienced. I mean, that's, the qualities of Leo are not the qualities of Capricorn. Everything has its job. So it's like your mother would appreciate play, a certain amount of play or fun, or, is that making any sense to you as you relate to your mother now?
Yeah. Look, I mean, these days it's back to phone calls, and she unfortunately lost a lot of her hearing. And despite hearing aids, it's hard it actually is hard. Communication is, because she can't hear me despite shouting. Yeah. But when I visited her in Germany, like 6 months ago, that's exactly, we were playful, we laughed, like, I made fun of her in a nice way, like stuff that would normally annoy me. It's like, oh, Mom, of course you need 2 different wardrobes, and you have whatever 12 pairs of shoes, which I haven't got.
Right.
So I could make fun of it, and she could also laugh with me.
Yes. And she would really, because Leo energy appreciates the attention. That's why it's the sign of the performer, so she could really be appreciating your attention now, which, it's like a cat, right? A cat is Leo. When you pet a cat, right, it just totally is yours. Well, so your mom could, Yeah, just
Yeah,
knowing.
plus she doesn't get the attention from my dad who crossed over, right?
Yeah.
So everything shifted for her.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
almost like the more fun things, like I don't know if you send her cartoon, I don't know what your fun thing is together, but even if she can't understand you, even sending her little cartoons, I don't know, something that would speak to the child in her.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like great advice.
Yeah.
And yes, that's where we're at. Like I also feel, I think in general, the aging process, you do become more like a child.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So as everyone is listening to this, I really want to encourage you to think about that difference within your own relationship with your mother or even your children. You know, if you're the mom and you think about it that way, you have a unique relationship. I have a very unique relationship with my daughter, you know, and that has its own sign. So, you know, we can think about it in both ways.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the relationship together, the astrological sign, it's a Capricorn.
You're talking about for Shivani and her mom?
Shivani, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're both Capricorn. So obviously that would mean the relationship is Capricorn for sure.
Right.
But the relationship has a lot of freedom energy in it too. It has Sag, it has Aquarius. So it's an interesting mix. And of course, remember, we come in, the soul needing to have certain experiences. And then it's like, in a sense, we make agreements, we set it up with other people to come in and act in a way that allows us to have the experience that we're choosing. So for instance, you know, to come in just that with a moon in Capricorn, with the sun in Capricorn and a mother who's got the sun in Capricorn, you know, one could certainly feel the, well, you know, mom is responsible, but again, not necessarily a warm fuzzy. You know, that wouldn't be a warm fuzzy kind of mom necessarily. But now with the Leo energy, you could certainly thawing, right? Exactly. But you know, again, I just believe, you know, these healing, these folks in our life, our parents, our mother in this particular case, she's responding to the script that our soul wrote for her, and we're responding to the script that soul wrote for us. And so to see it from that perspective, you know, that probably in another lifetime, you were probably her mother or who knows what, right? But in this lifetime, the form looks like, you know, Renata and Shivani are mother and daughter, and Elaine and Cindy are mother and daughter, you know, but that's just form. That has nothing to do with the energy, really.
Yeah.
Well, before I talk about my mom, I would actually like you to tell me about our chart together. Well, my mom's chart, of course, but then ours together.
You and your mother. Yeah. Well, but say something about your mom. Like Shivani, you know, she talked a little bit about her mother, because then that'll give me sort of a sense of what kind of experience you've had so far.
Oh, okay. Well, when I was little, you know, I was so proud of my mom. She's so beautiful. And my mom was the only person that I've ever known growing up that was a natural blonde, but dyed her hair black. And she had, I called them magic marker eyebrows, because they're big painted on eyebrows, which have become popular again, actually. And she had this very unique look, and very beautiful, very stunning with the dark hair. And she was always dressed to the nines. She was a shopaholic, opposite of me, because I'm not much of a shopper. I'm kind of a tom girl, but she was very loving, 6 children, very much the homemaker. And I wasn't close to mom, but I admired her from afar. She was closest to my older sister, Becky, mostly, I think, because Becky demanded it. And, you know, if I got any attention, it'd be kind of like my cats. If one gets attention over the other, they start fighting. So, and the other cat gets beat up on for it. So I have to give them all each equal attention. And that's kind of what happened with the kids. And my relationship with my mom was really good. Even though she was dressed to the nines, she was always barefoot. She loved nature. She was one of these people that would go outside and she would flip over a rock and she would say, "Look at all these little critters under here. See, there's worlds within worlds."
Wow.
And she made us very curious about things. And she would talk about, she said, how you run through the horse or through the cow pasture, and then you step into the cow pie. And if your feet are cold, it feels good for a moment. And then you start crying because you got cow poop on your feet, But she always thought about many different sides to things. And then she went through a shift. When we were teenagers, my brother, she got pregnant with my brother. She didn't want any more kids. And, she had already had 5. And she didn't know who Elaine was. And so she went through a real identity crisis. And then 2 years after my brother was born, I got pregnant. And our relationship changed, and she didn't want anything else to do with me. So that was very hard for me. I didn't understand it at the time. I understand it now, but I didn't understand it at the time. And we had an estranged relationship up until she died.
Wow. Because again, your mom, as you know, was a Sagittarius and with a lot of Capricorn, again, an interesting mix of freedom and obligation, or freedom and responsibility, in other words. But in looking at the relationship, maybe what was perceived as mom didn't want anything to do with me, that the sun and moon of your relationship with your mother are the 2 freedom signs, believe it or not. In other words, Aquarius is the sun and Sag is the moon. So it would suggest that your relationship with your mother was one in which ultimately you each would, but I'm not talking to her, you would have the opportunity to really be yourself. I mean, to really, in that relationship, actually to be able to find the part of you that needed to rebel against the status quo or, what was expected of you or, and again, and here's what's interesting. In your relationship with your mother, there's also Leo energy. So the potential to play again would have been there, but again, see, I'm of course totally objective, right? I'm seeing through a totally pure lens about your relationship with your mother and Shivani, your relationship with yours. So it's just like, here's raw data. And so in your relationship with your mother, it would have been a lot about freedom. I mean, like 4 planets in Aquarius, 1 in Sag, and that could look like not a lot of necessarily contact, perhaps, but ultimately, did she, and she died when? What year?
2012.
Oh, that's not that long.
Her last day here was Valentine's Day.
So in the last few years of her life, so you didn't have much contact, is what you said. So it wasn't like.
Right. We didn't, what I had to do was I said, Mom, I have to put you in a box and I'll come into the box and we can have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be my rules because I got hurt a lot by her. Mm-hmm. And it worked. We had to have a structure. That maybe is that Capricorn, where it had to be, here are the rules of our relationship, rules of engagement.
Yeah.
And we get to pick the topic. And nobody else liked to talk about religion versus spirituality. And we did.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, she was Catholic, very religious. She changed. She used to be very curious about things. She very some of the biggest spiritual lessons that I learned in my life came from my mother, but that shifted in the last couple of years in her life because she got around some people that were very religious, and she started pushing people away out of her life because of the religion, which I think I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. But we had some really cool conversations. And the last thing that I said to her in January, the last time that I actually had a conversation with her, she said, I believe that you're right. And I understand what you're saying, that it's, it's bigger than this. Mm-hmm. And she said, but if when I go, I'll let you know what I find out on the other side. And if I go first, then I'll let her know what's on the other side. So we had that conversation.
Yeah. And that certainly is an outside the box conversation.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
yep.
most people don't necessarily talk that way or know that or believe that, or, you know, more and more do. But, you know, so again, if you think back on your relationship with your mother, I would imagine you would see some playful threads.
Oh, she was very playful. She was an amazing singer. And that's where I got my voice from, is my mother. And, you know, she had a solid, almost a solid 4-octave range. So did I. And she would make up songs, and she would, in fact, at her funeral, it was so funny. We had a version of, I think it was, what did we sing? Que Sera, or no, Hole in the Bottom of the Sea. And she had her own lyrics completely. We'd printed them off, and it wasn't anything like the real thing. And we didn't know she would make up her own words to stuff, but she did. And that's what we learned. But again, she was very, very playful, playful growing up.
The question, did you feel that underlying Sag energy from her in your life and then this is specifically what I'm talking about, the Sag energy is, this must be happening for a reason. There's meaning and purpose in everything. Now, even if people aren't, because you have a lot of Sag energy, Shivani, did your mother do you think she sort of got that? Do you think, did you ever hear her sort of say, well, you know, this is probably happening because it's supposed, something like that? Was that ever part of the verbiage growing up? I'm just curious in terms
she would have been more open to a conversation like that when we were younger. Okay. I remember her one day when I was asking her about death. I wanted to understand death. And she said, let me show you. So she took the cellophane wrapper off cigarette package, off a couple of them, in fact. And she stuck one inside the other. And she took a crayon and she started marking it. She said, when we go through life, we have things happen. And she started marking it. She could, a bruise here, and we fall down, and then we get it here, and then our heart gets broken, and we get disappointed by life. And she's marked all over it. And she said, but then when you die, this outer shell leaves. And she pulled the one on the outside off. And she said, inside we're whole.
Wow. Quite enlightened.
Yeah, there you go.
Very enlightened until whatever happened to her when she went through the identity crisis. And even then she still was, but she went through a real difficult time. But it really shifted the last couple of years of her life when she left all that behind and became very religious. Mm-hmm. And in fact, so much so that the last time I went to see her, she wouldn't allow me in the house.
Wow.
So it really shifted, and you know, that has its own purpose.
Yeah. Well, I know, you know, it's interesting. It's the Taurus new moon next week, because that's my moon sign. So my relationship with my mother is very up now. And to make a long story short, that story that I told both of you about my mother's name appearing, I sent myself 4 different Ho'oponopono, one in French, one in German, one in Italian, to my phone. And again, it was my mother's name today. So
oh my goodness.
It's really interesting, because my mother was an Aries, and my mother definitely had that rage energy of Aries, you know, of that. She was born in 1924, of, you know, not really being able to do what she wanted to do. You know, Aries has to have that freedom of expression, of spontaneous action. And so my relationship with my mother was Cancer. So there were times I felt very supported and cared for by my mother, and made safe. And then I learned a lot about feeling abandoned in my relationship with my mother. But here's the thing, none of it has to do with her. She just showed up so that I got to do I'm Cancer rising. So I got to do that energy. But there were times, you know, it was kind of like our unspoken agreement was that I would call her every Sunday, and I'm dating myself. But you remember, Cindy, in this country, when the phone rates would change after 5 o'clock on Sunday. Do you remember?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Well, I remember when it was my turn to call my mother, I would wait till like 4:45, 4:50. And I used to ask myself, what is that about? And what I think it was about was I was telling myself that I really wanted to connect with my mother, but I was afraid of being abandoned. Now, of course, at that time, didn't know it had nothing to do with her. But then every time we would connect, I would not feel abandoned. It was my shit. I mean, it was my stuff. of, oh, I don't know that I really want it. It felt like such a have to. I'm sure there are people even listening or whatever that have perhaps unspoken agreements with parents, that are still alive, that you go visit and whatever. And I would really just encourage you to reconnect to oneself around that. And then there'll be a difference in the connection with the mother. But I know I felt very supported and encouraged by my mother, but then I also felt withheld from my mother. And that's all my inventory. So, thank you, Mom. You showed up right on cue. I love you, Mom. Here we go, right? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
There you go. There you go. I want to say my mom did communicate with me after she passed. Has your father, Shivani? Because your dad's.
Yeah. Look, I could feel this, like I only realized after he passed how incredibly loving he was and is. Like I was literally, overwhelmed by the love. I didn't get any words, but I know he's happy. He's like, I'm glad I checked out. So yeah.
And when did he die, Shivani?
February last year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's just
been
right.
a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I was present when he crossed over. Yeah, I could feel that, and that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to say goodbye. Like
Yeah.
I could actually ring him in the hospital. So yeah, very precious.
Yeah, I was with both my parents. I mean, my mom died, my dad in 92, my mother in 2000, but I was in that was the most incredible thing I think I've ever felt ever. I mean, it was incredibly sad, but there was something so exciting about it too, somehow. The reverence of that. I don't know, but
yeah, like I encouraged him. He couldn't hear the second stroke then. So I was able to ring. He was able to hear me, and I basically encouraged him to let go, and I thanked him for being my dad and all that, and then basically said, look, let go, you don't have to be afraid, I'll be with you. And within 2 days he left.
wow.
So yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for the Father's Day show.
Yeah. My dad keeps hanging on.
Yeah. Well, my mom too. I think my mom is still in that way the iron fist. Yeah. So yeah.
What happened with my mom that was really interesting is, our agreement was if you get to the other side, whoever gets there first has to communicate with the other one about what's going on. Because again, our box was all around spirituality and religion, and for her it was Catholic religion. So she thought, if you have to believe this way and this way only if you're going to get into heaven. And of course I believe, that there's room for everyone. So she started communicating immediately after she died. Immediately she started, and I didn't recognize it right away. But when we went to the funeral home or the flower to get the flowers and the sash, we ordered something, and it was, my mom and dad were divorced after 50 years of marriage, and he still wanted a banner that said "My loving wife," one of those that go across the casket, and we were going to call and change that because I didn't feel like that was right because they got a divorce. And I just said out loud, Mom, is that okay? That Dad has it, does it matter? So we thought we better change it. And so we called there, and it called into the hospital where she died, which is in another county. So the exchange wasn't even the same. The area code or whatever, it wasn't even the same. And every time we called, it went into that hospital where she died instead of the flower shop. The numbers weren't even anywhere near each other, and it kept going there. We went to fill the car with gas, and the gas filled up. As it stopped on 666. Well, my mother, being Catholic, being, religious, in the way that she talked about the devil all the time and 666, and it scared her half to death. And my conversation was always, Mom, if you have to decide who your God is, because right now all you talk about is the devil, and whatever you focus on is what you draw to you. That's the law of attraction and the way that I feel. And so 666 kept coming up. And when I got home, I was in the house one morning. I thought, I'd call Mom. And have you ever had that where you think about calling your dad or your parents, and then you think, oh my goodness, they're not here anymore. And I got sad for a moment, and I thought, no, I can still learn from you, Mom. So, I can't call you, but what can I still learn from you? And I looked at the temperature gauge, and it was in the 40s, and all of a sudden it went up to 666. Scared me. I would love to know, everybody, put this in the chat if you've experienced anything like this, communication from your parents or anyone that you've lost. Yeah. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Does that mean, the devil's real? Because I don't believe in that. I believe that there's dark energy, but I don't believe that there's a devil, and not in the Catholic Church way. So the next morning, same thing happened. And so I looked it up in my angel book, Doreen Virtue's book, and 666 means don't focus on material things. Instead, focus on your spiritual growth.
Oh, look at that.
My mother was very materialistic. I said before, she was always dressed to the nines. She had clothes upon clothes. She was a shopaholic, very materialistic. And I knew that was from her. And I said, what else do you want me to know? And all of a sudden, the temperature gauge dropped, and it was 444. I looked at the clock, it's 444. I open up my computer, every timestamp on my email was 444. And then I get in the car, I get behind somebody, it's 444. So I looked it up. Someone in heaven loves you.
Oh, wow.
And wow. So that kind of communication went on for a while. So she talked to me. And the most amazing thing was the dream that I had thereafter. And the dream was, it was at her house. She's laying out on the bed. And by the way, we did her hair and makeup for her because she had that unique look with the big hair. It was actually a wig that she wore because we all have very thin, crummy hair. So she wore this big wig and her big eyebrows and everything, and nobody else could do it. So she made us all promise that we would do her hair and makeup. So in the dreams, she laid out exactly the way that we fixed her up, and she looked beautiful. And we're sitting around, and the grandkids come in, and then my sister Jerry comes in. And when she walked in, my mom in my dream sat up. And Jerry Marie said, Mom, I knew you weren't dead. I knew you weren't really dead. I'm going to go tell everybody. And she left, and then the kids are going, they're touching her and saying, but Grandma, you were hard and you were cold. We know that you were dead. And she said, no, I'm so light. I'm so light, and I'm so alive. And she said, and they said, but you were dead. We know you were dead. And she said, no, I'm so light. And she stood up and she started spinning around, and she said, and my house is so big, there's room for everyone.
Oh, wow.
Which is what I said. So I called my sister right away. And that morning, as soon as I knew that she'd be up, and I said, you saw Mom in your dream last night for the first time, didn't you? And she said, you spook me when you do that. And she said, yes, I did. And I said, and here's what happened, and here's the message from Mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Her house is so big. In other words, heaven is so big, and there is room for everyone. So that was the message that we promised each other that we'd give, that knowledge.
Beautiful.
So for all of you, I'd love to know what communications, once again, that you have had. And it's, I talk to my mom all the time, and she sends me digital messages still. I haven't seen her in a dream in a while, but I get digital messages. Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and share our prayer? And I know, Shivani, that you found something very specific that you would like to share with everyone? And why don't you lead us in with
Yeah.
some breath, and then Lorelei, you had something to share too?
I was just going to encourage release, but sure, I can do that.
Okay. All right. So Shivani, why don't you start us?
Yeah, so this is a really beautiful blessing for Mother Earth. So I wanted to open it up. You know, we're talking about mothering, but it's not just biological children, because the earth is our mother as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to encourage everyone who is not driving, obviously, to close your eyes and allow the words to be heard and felt, and allow yourself to be touched. So use all of your senses while I'm reading out the blessing. So take a few deep breaths to start with, really into your belly, right up into your chest. As you breathe out, allow yourself to sink a little bit more within. And then imagine that you're opening up all your senses, and allow the words to wash over you and move through you. Blessed are the sons and daughters of light who know their Mother Earth. She is the giver of life. Acknowledge that you are a part of your mother, and she is part of you. She generated you and gave you life. She gave you the body you have, the same one that one day you shall return to her. Know that the blood of your veins was brought forth from the blood of your Mother Earth. Her blood drops from clouds in the sky and streams from her womb. It bubbles through the mountain creeks and flows abundantly through the rivers on the Sierras. Acknowledge that the very all that enters your body is the respiration of Mother Earth. Her breath is the blue celestial skies, her whisperings, the leaves of the forest. Acknowledge that the firmness of your bones was created from the solidity of the bones of your mother. The softness of your complexion was born from the flesh of your Mother Earth. The light of your eyes, the reach of your hearing, bloomed from the colors and sounds of your mother, who surrounds you as the ocean waves cuddle the fish, as the living air embraces the birds. In truth, I tell you, you are one with your mother. She is one with you, as you are one with her. From her you were born, on her you live, and to her you shall return. Respect her laws and will. Your breath is her breath. Your blood is her blood. Your bones are her bones. Your flesh is her flesh. You are her eyes and ears. Blessed is the son or daughter of the light that finds peace with Mother Earth, because they will never taste death. Recognize her peace is in your mind. Yearn for her peace in your heart. Realize peace in your body. Strive to be happy. Love yourself and evolve. And that is translated and adapted from the Essene Gospel. And the Essenes believed in the presence of a heavenly father and an earthly mother, or the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Mother Earth gave the physical form, while the divine father bestowed the spirit of life. Thank you. Blessings.
And as you breathe in the wisdom of those words, just allow yourself to sink just a little bit deeper into your consciousness. Just allow yourself to feel a core connection to the essence of who you are, and to allow everything that no longer is an expression of you to just gently dissolve, gently just wash and fall away, knowing that you can trust this energy of release and letting go, because the universe is always on your side, creating safety, creating a sense of nurturing and nourishment where you can feel safe and connected to the essence, to the divine essence of who you are. So in this moment, take another deep cleansing breath and allow the energy to just wash over you from the top of your head all the way down through your body and out your feet. And just sinking again into Mother Earth, trusting in the goodness, trusting in the love and in the compassion in yourself and in all beings. And for this, we are eternally grateful. Thank you, Mother, Father, God.
Welcome to the hood. If you have been a person who has nurtured a plant, another person, a garden, or a painting, then you are a mother. You have given birth to something or have nurtured something so that it will flourish. You are part of the hood. Open your heart and allow that energy to just move deeper into your knowing. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. We all have the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Open your heart and allow that divine feminine in. It will always fill you with the most incredible energy. Breathe in a nice, beautiful, deep breath all the way to your toes. Breathe in. This is the breath of love that comes from that nurturing, from that hood, the motherhood that we all belong to, regardless if we've given birth or not. Release that breath. Send that love out into the universe so that others in need of that kind of love can feel it too. We are the change that we want to see in the world. That motherly love that is nurturing, that is caring, that is forgiving, that is accepting, that is unconditional love is something that we can send into the world just by being part of the hood. Breathe in. Again, all the way down into your toes. Fill yourself with that loving breath. Let your lungs expand. And now breathe out and send that love into the world for all to feel. We nurture each other. We are here for each other. We are part of the hood. One more deep breath. And release that love into the universe. And know that part of this loving is also going out to your little critters that are in your life too. Just feel the energy. And so it is. Mm. That was beautiful, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm definitely altered.
Me too. We would love to know how you feel, everybody. How are you feeling right now? You in Facebook land. And let's go ahead and just see very quickly if there's any questions or comments. I think that Sat wrote in earlier and said, I most definitely am feeling it. The shift she's talking about at the beginning of the show. And then on Facebook, let's see if we have any comments here. Okay. My dad winked at me from his casket. Oh my goodness. This is from Kathy. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm not really dead. That's what she could hear. You know, I'm not really dead. I didn't expect it. And I started laughing. This is what she experienced. That's really cool. That is really cool.
And that's true. We know we don't die. He's not dead. I mean, on a soul level.
Yeah. Just like my mom, you know. Sat said, thank you all so very much. Rosemary says, thank you. And I want to say, you know, in leaving everyone with this, if you doubt that you are thinking these things, because we try to intellectualize things when something unusual happens, when somebody passes. And even with my mom, I thought, okay, there's something wrong with the temperature gauge. There's this, there's that. I found myself even doing that. And after all these things happened with my mom, Ferris and I found this workshop that we went to that was called Messages from Heaven. And so we went there, and we got there a few minutes late, and we walked in, and we found out very quickly that it wasn't actually a workshop, it was a psychic. And when I walked in, she looked at me and she started coughing. And she said, God, please take death from my door. Well, that's the message my mom left on the table. She knew she was dying in her house. And she left that message on the table. And she said, and then she looked at me and she said, don't focus on material things. Focus on your spiritual growth and know that somebody in heaven loves you.
Wow.
There's room for everyone. And Ferris is rubbing my back and I'm going, can't believe it. So the confirmation, I was given confirmation I will never doubt again.
Yeah.
So look for that confirmation, everyone. Be open to it. And it can come in unusual circumstances, just like that. I didn't know what I was walking into. And she confirmed everything. So that's out there. So if your mom's on the other side, or whoever was your mom figure in your life, or father figure, you know, those messages are there. So any final thoughts from you two?
Clean, clean, clean until next week's new moon.
Okay.
On every level.
Yeah, do your personal growth, and it really will pay off. Yeah, because the more you can learn how to love yourself and you let go of all the stuff, then any relationship will be easier.
Totally.
You know, one of the 4 agreements, don't take it personally. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, you know, in our relationship with our parents, we do take it personally. So know that it's personal in that you had a soul contract with whoever, your mother, regardless if it was a good relationship or not so good. Know that that is a soul contract. and what you needed to know to help you throughout this life and for your soul's growth. That's what you got.
Yeah.
Right?
Again there.
Yeah. Yeah, and also everyone really does the best they know how in that moment, right? So I would say, well, I really believe most of the time, I mean, there are exceptions, but most moms don't want to hurt you intentionally,
Right.
but they're just who they are with their own experience, and that hurting is growth. You know, if you get hurt, fantastic. Like that at the time, right? But that
Right.
is, wake up, something is happening. Let's look inside. Why do you feel so hurt? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's right. So go out and celebrate this beautiful weekend of Mother's Day. If you're mothering your garden or your pets, which I do every day. We all do. All three of us have pets. I know that you do too. Or if you're spending time with your mom, if she's here on this side, or just remembering your mom. Just make it a wonderful weekend, and much love to you all. And until next Wednesday, just enjoy this beautiful life that is yours. Much love to you all, and namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.